The provinces of Africa, Libya and Egypt were vital to Rome's survival and wealth. Once Rome ended the Third Punic War by sacking the city of Carthage in 146 BC, North Africa had become a province of the Republic first and then the Roman Empire from Augustus onwards. Rome came to depend upon these provinces for corn, fish and minerals as well as the lucrative trade that came from the Sahara in gold, ivory, slaves and exotic wild animals. Every town had its reason for being, from the large cities like Lepcis Magna to the small towns like Dugga. Located 60 miles southwest of modern Tunis in northern Tunisia, Dugga was an original Numidian town, founded probably in the 6th century BC. It came under Roman jurisdiction after the sack of Carthage in 146 BC and under the domain of Carthage later during the reign of Augustus. It was garrisoned by a single legion and auxiliary troops from Britain. Although it boasts typical Roman buildings, there is no sign of a coherent town plan. Instead, Wheeler notes on page 46 that in towns like Dugga, un-Roman streets wind amongst conventional Roman buildings. Wheeler does not include details in his town plan of Dugga, on page 147. But even a cursory examination of the plan proves his point. There is a colonnaded forum to the north of town, which abuts onto a temple to Capitoline Jupiter to the east and continues east onto a temple to Mercury. Continuing east to the haphazard entrance to the main hub of town we find the smaller shrine to Augustus. Wheeler's point about conventional Roman buildings lost in a maze of un-Roman streets is most evident to the southeast of town, where we find a temple to Concord, practically on top of a basilica, which abuts an extravagant bath complex. There is little to no warning as we move from religious sanctuaries, through to administrative buildings and onto leisure amenities in Dugga. There was no civic idea at work in the planning of the town. Rather, typical Roman buildings were planted on an ad hoc basis in a Numidian village. The city of Thaumagadi, or Timgad, is a more conventional textbook Roman town, that rather resembles Caerwent in Britain. It was founded in AD 100 by Emperor Trajan for his army veterans. The original stone castrum with rounded corners was accessed by 3, possibly 4, main gates at the center of each wall. The west gate was later turned into a triumphal triple arch during the Antonine era in the late 2nd century AD. Wheeler notes it in his commentary on triumphal arches, but its poor state of preservation tells us little about its original purpose, beyond forming the gateway to the city's Decumanus Maximus. Marked A on the plan. B, the north gate, led onto a colonnaded cardo that terminated in a colonnaded forum, marked D. Minor gates, or posterns, marked C, at the far east and west ends on the north wall led onto minor cardines. The eastern one continued on out of the town through a similar southeast postern at the other side of town. The minor decumani and cardines split the town up into a hippodamian grid. Returning to D, the forum, we find a basilica, marked E, on the west side, and a temple, marked G, on the east. The town hall, or curia, marked F, occupied a central insulus to the extreme east of the forum, opposite the forum temple. Public latrines, marked H, were located in the extreme northwest corner of the forum next to the basilica. The toilets were separated by armrests carved as dolphins. The rest of the forum was surrounded by shops. To the south of the forum, a large theatre, marked J, was constructed in the 2nd century AD. It could hold a maximum capacity of 4,000. Wheeler notes in his section on theatres, that it represents a transitional theatre between the Greek and Roman models, being only partially enclosed and, unlike the theatre at nearby Lepcis Magna, lacking a preeminent scenifrons or backdrop. There are 5 baths, marked K, within the city, and a further 8 more outside the city walls. Timgad was well watered by aqueducts, and the citizens obviously benefited from the hygiene. Not to mention relief from the extreme African heat. North of the forum, L occupies an entire insulus. A curiously apsed building with many niches and smaller ante-rooms might suggest a library. Public and private buildings spread outwards from the original castrum haphazardly like at Ostia. The Donathis, a heretical schism of Christianity, built a cathedral outside the city, at M, in the 4th century AD, and there are also 3 more Christian churches nearby, marked N, of similar date, all outside the city to the west. We finish up in Africa at Lepcis Magna. Located on the coast near modern Tripoli, Lepcis Magna was built on the site of a pre-existing Phoenician harbour town, at the foot of a high promontory overlooking the sea. There are 2 phases to the town. The old town dates from the reigns of Augustus to Trajan. The old forum, marked C on the plan, lies at the foot of the promontory. D, a basilica, lies at its south end, whilst the north end is dominated by E, a complex of 3 temples. The central temple was dedicated to the goddess Roma, Augustus and members of the Julio-Claudian family, probably by Emperor Tiberius, the heir to Augustus. It occupied a high podium, which serves as a platform for oratory. The market was constructed in 8 to 9 BC. It boasts well-constructed circular market halls and stones that bear the markings of standard units of measure and volume. The theatre was built by the same person, whose name and reasons for the project are recorded in a bilingual inscription over the two main entrances to the theatre in Latin and Neo-Punic. The new town dates to the late 1st century AD. It consumed the coast road, which became its Decumanus Maximus, marked AA. Rectangular insulae swallow up the Cardo, marked BB, which led into the Old Forum. Tacitus, the historian, records fortifications were built to repel the Garamantians, a neighboring Berber tribe that formed an alliance with the nearby OR in Tripoli in AD 69. The bath complex, marked H, was constructed by Hadrian in AD 127. The city became famous at the end of the 1st century AD because Emperor Septimius Severus had been born there. He constructed a colonnaded street, marked J, linking the harbour to the Hadrianic baths. He also built the new Forum, marked K. It measured 1,000 by 600 feet, was surrounded by colonnades with arches springing directly from the column capitals and was dominated on the west side by a temple of unknown dedication. He also built a new basilica, marked I, that boasted various marble columns imported from Egypt and Greece, decorated with scenes from the lives of the gods Dionysus and Hercules, patron deities of the Severan family. It was completed during the reign of Caracalla in AD 216. A ceremonial four-way triumphal arch was built to commemorate the visit of Emperor Septimius Severus to his native city in AD 203. It was built on the crossroads of the Cardo and Decumanus Maximus. Wheeler cites it in his section on triumphal arches, along with the Arch of Janus Quadrophorans in the Forum Boreum in Rome, as two rare examples of four-way arches. Around this time, however, the city became too ambitious. The harbour, marked O, at the mouth of the Wadi Lebda River, was reconstructed and boasted quays, horia or warehouses, a temple and queue, a lighthouse. The new harbour however shows little signs of prolonged use. In fact, it quickly silted up and was abandoned soon after. The so-called hunting baths, marked as P, lie to the west of the city, off the plan. This complex was the last building to be built. The largely intact vaults are decorated in wall paintings that suggest it was owned and built by hunters who supplied wild animals to local and Italian amphitheatres. The theatre is of particular note to Wheeler at Lepcis Magna. It was built by the same man who also built the nearby market with its circular halls. Two bilingual inscriptions in Latin and Neo-Punic above the entrances to the theatre tell us his name was, and Nobel to Papias Rufus. It was built in AD 102 and is the oldest and second largest theatre in Africa. The lower half of the cavea is carved into a hill. The upper tiers are built of stone. Vomitoria underneath the cavea suggest it may have served as more than just a theatre. For gladiatorial munero perhaps, although the city did, in fact, have a fine purpose-built amphitheatre, for such events. Returning to the theatre however, it was accessed by the lateral parador of the Sceni, one of which opens onto the Cardo. The prosceni features niches for statues and 5 low steps arc around the orchestra for VIP seating. The Sceni itself, though monumental, is canonically tripartite and features the 3 doors as one would expect of a Greek theatre. It is built in the Corinthian order and once supported elaborate entablatures. A temple to Ceres was built at the top of the cavea, at some later date, probably to fend off zealous criticisms. The drama was unwholesome. Only one more city remains, Palmyra in the Near East.